Gangs have played a major role in crime and violence across the United States, operating in nearly every state, from the bustling streets of Los Angeles and New York to the small rural towns of the Midwest and South. These criminal organizations control drug trafficking, extortion, human trafficking, and violent crime, and many have deep historical roots, with some stretching back decades. But which gangs dominate each state? Which organizations are the most dangerous, feared, and influential? Join us as we break down the worst gangs in America, state by state, exposing their history, their crimes, and their terrifying influence. Warning: this video is for educational purposes only. We do not glorify or promote gang activity. Instead, we aim to provide a deeper understanding of how these organizations operate and their impact on society. Now, let's begin our journey across America's most dangerous street, East Coast gangs. We start our list on the East Coast, home to some of America's most notorious and long-standing criminal organizations. New York. The Bloods and the Latin Kings. The Bloods. Originally formed in Los Angeles, the Bloods have a massive presence in New York, particularly in Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Queens. They're known for their red colors, hand signs, and brutal territorial disputes with the Crips. Their criminal enterprises include drug trafficking, robberies, and extortion. The Latin Kings. One of the largest and oldest Hispanic gangs, the Latin Kings were founded in the 1940s and expanded across the U.S. Their strict hierarchy and militant structure make them one of the most organized street gangs, with heavy involvement in drug distribution, violent assaults, and prison control. New Jersey. Mississippi 13 Mara Salvatrucha, or MS-13, is one of the most feared gangs in the world. Originally formed in Los Angeles by Salvadoran immigrants, they've since spread across the U.S., with New Jersey being a key hub. Known for machete attacks and extreme brutality, they often engage in drug trade, contract killings, and human trafficking. Pennsylvania. The Pagans Motorcycle Club. Unlike traditional street gangs, Pennsylvania is home to the Pagans, an outlaw motorcycle gang deeply involved in drug trafficking, extortion, and violent turf wars with other biker gangs like the Hells Angels. With a history of attacking rivals with clubs, chains, and firearms, they maintain a powerful criminal presence across the East Coast. Midwest gangs. The Midwest may seem quieter than the coasts, but it harbors some of the most violent and structured gang organizations in the country. Illinois. The Gangster Disciples. Chicago has been called the gang capital of the U.S., and one of its most notorious groups is the Gangster Disciples. Formed in the 1960s, they became one of the largest African American street gangs, controlling much of the drug trade, extortion, and organized violence in Chicago's South Side. Michigan. The Vice Lords. In Detroit, one of the dominant gangs is the Vice Lords, an organization involved in drug sales, weapons trafficking, and gang warfare. They have a deep-rooted history in the Midwest and continue to expand their influence through violence and recruitment efforts in prisons. Missouri. The Aryan Brotherhood. Missouri has a strong presence of the Aryan Brotherhood, one of the most ruthless white supremacist prison gangs in America. Originally formed in the prison system, they engage in murder for hire, drug smuggling, and racial violence, operating both behind bars and on the streets. Southern gangs. The South is home to a mix of street gangs, prison gangs, and outlaw motorcycle clubs that dominate the criminal underworld. Texas. Tango Blast. One of the largest prison-based gangs in Texas is Tango Blast, a loosely structured but extremely dangerous organization. Unlike traditional gangs, they have no strict hierarchy, making them unpredictable and harder to dismantle. They control much of the drug trade within Texas prisons and in major cities like Houston and Dallas. Florida. The Zoe Pound. In Florida, particularly in Miami, the Zoe Pound gang is one of the most feared Haitian American gangs. Known for their involvement in drug trafficking, armed robberies, and fraud, they have a reputation for highly coordinated and ruthless operations. Georgia. The Crips. Atlanta has seen a major expansion of the Crips, originally from Los Angeles. They battle for control of drug markets and racketeering schemes, leading to violent clashes with other gangs, particularly the Bloods. West Coast gangs. The West Coast is home to some of the most notorious gangs in American history, many of which have expanded nationwide. California. The Crips and the Bloods. Los Angeles has long been the epicenter of gang culture, with two of the most infamous groups, the Crips and the Bloods, waging war for decades. Their influence extends beyond street violence to drug smuggling, arms trafficking, and organized crime. Nevada. The 18th Street Gang in Las Vegas. The 18th Street Gang is one of the most dangerous and rapidly growing Latino gangs, involved in drug smuggling, human trafficking, and violent robberies. Oregon. Norteños and Sureños. Oregon is experiencing a surge in gang activity from the Norteños and Sureños, two rival Mexican-American gangs that originated in California and have expanded their reach northward. From the violent streets of Chicago to the gang wars of Los Angeles, these organizations continue to control crime, recruit new members, and engage in deadly conflicts. Law enforcement fights back, but gangs evolve and adapt, keeping their operations alive. What do you think? Which of these gangs do you think is the most dangerous? Have you heard of any that weren't mentioned? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more in-depth crime and history content.